G'day folks, Links here, and welcome to a slightly different GTNH video. So this is not part of a series. This is not part of a series. This is basically just a small little video. You may notice I'm in my old world. This is just a small little video to talk about the upgrade behavior of CropsNH on existing worlds, and how existing IC2 crops are migrated. I do have another reason for hunting down this backup. I am looking to see if I can find a acceptable backup to roll back to in my previous run. Because despite uploading a video yesterday, I have kind of reached the conclusion that despite uploading a video earlier today, I've kind of reached the conclusion that I don't think I want to play through the early game of GTNH again on my own. My plan after this run was always to maybe do a group run or something like that. Maybe a group run with Twist Space technology or something like that. But yeah, I kind of don't want to... I don't think I want to play through the early game of GTNH again on my own. It's not that it's a bad early game, it's just I don't find it fun to play solo. I don't find the early game, I don't find the pre-AE2 or pre-HV era of GTNH fun to play through on my own. So we'll talk more about that at the end of the video, but the main purpose of this video is to talk about how CropsNH upgrades are handled in 2.9 when migrating from IC2 crops. So as you can see, all my crops are still here. They're all still here, so that's thumbs up number one. All still here. And some of them are perfectly fine. The tier stalks, completely happy. They don't have a care in the world. The ender blooms, they now require a block of end stone underneath them, which they didn't need in IC2. So this was my IC2 field where I just had the dirt blocks underneath. So these won't grow right now. And then these, the wither reeds and the blaze reeds, these actually need a new soil underneath. They won't grow on farmland. And that's going to be the case for a lot of crops that you come across. So bonsais need dirt. I presume sand lily needs sand. Where is it? Where'd it go? Where's the seed? I presume sand lily will want sand. Yep. Oh no, it wants is it? I think it's sandstone. Yeah, it's any sandstone. So sand lily wants sandstone. The wheat's fine because it wants farmland, although it does need a higher light level, which means it won't grow at night, which is different from IC2, I believe. I don't think IC2 penalized crops at night. But yeah, it makes sense that they don't just grow with zero sunlight. But anyway, so the next upgrade behavior that I really like, aside from the fact that all the crops are here and they've all got their right stats, is that crops that are planted on invalid soil will give you the seed back. So this blaze reed field, for example, the way I would correct this is would basically be to break all of these crops and get all of their seeds back, and then replace this with Netherrack, which is what blaze reed wants to grow on, and then plant them back down again. No loss. It just time. That's just a time thing. So that's awesome. It'd be the same for these. But for crops like this, where the environment has changed, or where the environmental requirement has changed, like you need to put a block underneath it or something like that, you are subject to the normal seed drop rates for these crops. So basically, so if you try to harvest this, you'll only have the base chance of getting the seed back, which for the reinforced spade, which you can make in MV, it's a 10% drop chance, or a 10% chance of getting the seed back. So in this case, you just have to fix the environment by, in this case, putting a block of endstone underneath. Another thing to point out is you don't actually need these columns anymore, where you have like 3 blocks of dirt, because that's how you got the bonus nutrient score in IC2. You don't need that in CropsNH. CropsNH is just the nutrient score comes entirely from the environment, so it comes from the biome, the humidity, the can it see the sky, and hydration and fertilizer. So yeah, that's so you don't need to do these like columns anymore. The other so that's basically how the upgrade behavior works, which I think is really good. If you do have to move a field for some reason, I don't know, if I needed to move these ender blooms, yes, I would lose some of them, because they're not, as the tooltip says, it just needs an ender block to grow, which means it is a valid location. It's just not got the right, it's just not got the right block underneath the soil. But if I had to move these, as long as I got at least a handful of the seeds back, regrowing them is not a huge concern. Because in HV, you can get a machine to replicate max statted crops. And unlike the IC2 one, it doesn't use multiple amps of power, it just uses an amp of HV. And you can do it with... and you can replicate seeds in MV and LV as well, but to do max statted seeds, so 31, 31, 31, you need to use the HV version. You need to use the HV version. So yeah, I think so it's not the end of the world. As long as you get at least 1 seed back, you can actually just replicate it, which is awesome. The only other thing I want to call out is this scenario where it says where it basically says that it can't be harvested in a field. It can only be harvested in the industrial farm. I assume this is what's happened with all high tier crops. Transformium, I believe, was tier 12 in IC2. So I think it's just happened with all high tier crops. And in this case, you do just have to break the crop, unfortunately. So you'll need to break it, get the seeds, and put them into a seed generator in order to get the replicate the seeds, and then you can put them into a industrial farm or a extreme industrial greenhouse or whatever. I know CropsNH, I believe it has its own multi-block now, in not just the EIG. So what's it got? So it has the industrial farm, but then there is the EIG, I think, still somewhere. I think that might be in another tab, maybe. Oh no, it's there. So yeah, so there's the EIG, which is a ZPM machine, and then the industrial farm is what you need for the high tier crops, which is just a MV machine. So yeah, that's, although I think it does have a tiering mechanic, so the MV machine might not be able to house tier 12 crops. But yeah, so as you can see, it says we can't harvest this, but if we right click it, it does still harvest. So you can get the seed, so you do have a chance of getting the seeds back with the reinforced spade, although I'm not really having any luck. I don't think I got any back in that instance. What about these ones? The drop rate is only 10% because these only have a resistance of 1, which isn't great. So I don't think it's going to give me... I don't think it's going to give me them back. So I think the only way to get these, because there's no way I haven't hit a 10% chance at the moment. So I think I don't think it's going to give me these back, which kind of sucks. So yeah, so this bit kind of sucks, but worst case you would just break the crops in the field, and as long as you get at least 1 back, then you'd be fine. I assume... Oh, no, because these can only be bred in the breeding machine, because they're high tier, so they can only be bred in the breeding machine. So yeah, so we do just have to break these, unfortunately. But yeah, you see we got one there. So we could put that into the seed generator and it would just clone it. Yeah, and it would just clone it. So that's really good. Yeah, that's really good. We you know, the fact that we just have to get one back and then we can thingy. I don't know how statting up these crops works. Maybe you can still stat them. So if we just do that, let's just see what happens. Because it's not fertilized or watered yet, but that's because the crop manager actually needs to come along and yeah, there we go. So can we still stat these? Because I'm actually genuinely curious as to how you stat the high tier crops if you can only breed them in the crop machine. I assume you can still stat them this way by just putting a double crop stick next to them. But I assume if I want to, but to breed them, you have to, to breed your first one, you have to breed it in the machine. But let's just see. The waiting times for CropsNH, at least playing in the, testing in the other world, the new world, the waiting times for statting are not actually too terrible. And the idea is you only have to stat one seed to 31, 31, 31, and then you can just use the seed generator to replicate it. Oh yeah, you can still stat them. So we need, we have a portable scanner. There we go. So yeah, there we go, 25, 31, 3. So that's awesome. One thing you're going to have to watch out for, though, if you are statting IC2 crops, you will likely have a lot of them that are 23, 31, 1. Which means that you're going to have to keep a very close eye on them or you're going to have to, when you breed them, you're going to have to keep an eye on them because weeds, although weeds are nowhere near as bad in CropsNH as they are in IC2, they are still a thing, and there is still a weed spawning penalty for high growth if your resistance is lower than the growth stat. So you can get 31, 31, you can get for all 31s on your crops and safely put them in a field, but it's statting your way up there that is going to be probably a bit troublesome if you're trying to stat up existing IC2 crops that are probably already 23, 31, 1, or potentially even 23, 31, 0, although I don't know if you can have a 0 stat in CropsNH. I think all crops with 0 stats might actually just end up being have a resistance of 1, potentially. But yeah, there is no growth penalty to resistance in CropsNH. So getting all 3 stats to 30 to 31 and putting them in a field is a purely positive thing, unlike IC2. So yeah, that is just something to keep an eye on. Is that if you do this and you stat them up, they're going to end, because if they already have a growth of 23, so this one is a 22, 31, this is going to end up with a growth of like over 23, which means it's going to behave like a weed. But all weeds do in CropsNH, at least from my testing earlier over there when I accidentally hurt a field over there, is they just make the plants sick and stop them from growing. The plants don't actually die. To my from what I can tell, the plants, there's no condition in which the plants will just disappear, like they do in IC2. I cured this whole field. This whole field was infected, and I cured it with the plant cure. In IC2, this whole field would have been destroyed. I would have lost this whole field. Absolutely everything would have been gone. So statting up an existing crop, statting up an existing IC2 crop that has these sort of stats, 22, 31 or 23, 31, etc., is going to be a little bit tedious, but it's not going to be the end of the world. You're going to want to watch the crops anyway. You're not going to want to leave this crop stick unattended if you've got it next to like a field like this. Because it won't destroy the field, but it will make it sick and stop it from growing. But yeah, so if we look at that, that's 25, 31 too. And then I would have to keep growing that. But yeah, this will, because these plants all have low resistance, this will make these plants sick. But yeah, I think realistically, that's only going to be a problem if you, that's not going to be a huge problem. I don't think. It's just there might be ways in the late game to actually stack crops up without letting them spread like that, but I am not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure, so I thought I would just call that out. So that's breeding with technology. Here we go. Gene. Yeah, so it'd be gene extractor, I guess. Yeah, so you can. Yeah, so it has a gene extractor similar to the. I think this was like the crop synthesizer in IC2. Actually, there we go. It is a crop synthesizer. So yeah, this is. Yeah, so this is basically how you would do it. This is how you would do it if you if you were growing something like transformium or whatever. Yeah, if you had a IC2 crop that was already like 23, 31 or whatever, then you would just start statting up a seed. It could be anything like a bonsai or anything like that. Start statting it up until you get it to 31, 31, and then and then use it to stat up other seeds in the synthesizer. So it all depends on what tier of the game you're in. But yeah, I did want to just call out the upgrade behavior. I think this is great upgrade behavior that they've got. I think this is a little bit of a bummer, but it's not the end of the world, and it really only affects, from at least my understanding, the ultra high end crops. And overall, crop breeding in CropsNH is nowhere near as tedious as IC2. So what I would likely do, again, I'll touch on it in a sec. But if I do decide to go back to a variant of this world, I'll probably just destroy all those crop setups, save some of the seeds, destroy them all, save some of the seeds, and then just stat the seeds up, and go from there. It's nowhere near as much of a pain to do crops with CropsNH. So yeah, this setup is now completely invalid. To my knowledge, there is absolutely no reason to do this now. I mean, I don't know. I guess there is still maybe a reason. I don't think there is. I don't think there's any reason to do this now. This Open Computers crop bot for breeding, because for statting up, you just have to put double crop sticks next to an existing plant, and it will grow. It will replicate. Yeah, the plant will grow into it, and then, like what you saw with the transformium, the plant will grow into it, and the offspring will have better stats, or have a chance to have better stats than its parent. So there's no crossbreeding there. That's all just deterministic, completely deterministic. No crossbreeding like in IC2, where you'd do like that, and you would just put two of the same plant in, but there's still a chance that they could produce a different offspring. Yeah, there's nothing like that, which is really good. But yeah, I think this is a massive upgrade from IC2 crops. I think the devs have done a really, really good job in terms of the new crop implementation, and I think it'll be a really good quality of life thing for people in 2.9 that are doing crops. But I also think it'll be a good, it'll provide a good incentive for people to get into crops. Getting in IC2 crops just sucked compared to bees, for example. I think CropsNH will revitalize crops in terms of adoption by players, because I think you have to be a bit of a masochist to love IC2 crops. But yeah, so that's the CropsNH stuff. So on the sort of thing that I mentioned earlier about potentially starting in this world, so what I'm currently doing, so like I said, I'm not necessarily sure I want to play through the entire GTNH early game by myself, but I also want to completely restructure this base. I basically want to completely blow away everything except for the central tower. Except for this central tower. Now, I could technically do that, because once I blow everything away, this LSC should be able to power the AE2 network for an extremely long time, with only AE2 plugged in. This LSC should be able to power everything for a very long time. But yeah, I would like to I would like to basically turn this in. I mean, this is a lawn base, but it's a lawn base that's not squares. I would like to completely restructure this into essentially this central tower, which is then surrounded by a square lawn base. That was the sort of idea that I've been having over the last sort of day or two while I've been out walking. So the idea, and I kind of probably want to get rid of these UA setups as well. I think I want to get rid of these universal automation setups, and maybe just switch to using the colored input bus or the colored hatch method, where you just put a whole bunch of different hatches on and then assign them different colors, and do it that way. I'd be potentially inclined to do that. The UA stuff has served me well. It's a bit more annoying to set up. I feel like the colored hatch stuff might be a bit less annoying to set up. And the throughput on the colored hatch stuff might be better as well. The other thing is that if this breaks for some reason, like there was an update, there was a daily build that did break this. I think. No, there was a change. They did change one of the default settings. I think it was for the item detector cover, potentially, where they changed the default tick rate for it. And that did break stuff. So, GTNH updates, always have a chance to break stuff like this, depending on what changes are in there. And just getting this, if you don't realize it and you set a recipe going, then everything gets clogged and it all goes really, or if you have auto crafting with like level maintainers, if you're level maintaining something or whatever, it can all get clogged up, and then it's a pain in the backside to troubleshoot. So I think in whether I continue the other run or whether I try and resurrect this run or whatever, I will probably be looking maybe to get rid of the UA stuff. It's served me really well. It has served me really well, but I think it would be probably better to do something else, potentially. But we'll see. We'll see. But the idea is that I'm just going to switch to create. Actually, it doesn't matter. I can just hover. There we go. So the idea that I sort of had would be that I would want everything to be chunk aligned. I'd want everything to be chunk aligned. So the way I'd probably do it would be that I would essentially have this central tower still, and then I would have the walkways coming out at least one chunk, and then the sort of the like boring squares of the lawn base would start, like here. So it'd essentially be basically just so then there is this gap, there's this curved gap between where the lawn base squares would be and this tower. So there'd be this kind of curve of empty space essentially around the tower. Because I don't mind this tower. This tower's fine, and I want to keep this AE room and whatnot. So I'm gonna have a think about that. If I did do that sort of restructure, it would honestly probably take me, I don't know, probably a week, couple of weeks, depending on how I did it. Even if I did it in creative, I think it'd still take me a little while, because I'd have to rebuild all these lines and all that. But yeah, I will probably, I am leaning more towards trying to resurrect the previous run. But we'll see. For now, I just want to put this video out mainly to talk about the CropsNH stuff and how I think a very good job has been done with regards to upgrade handling. And yeah, because really it was one of the bigger concerns that I had when going from 2.8 to 2.9 is I was very concerned that CropsNH would, that the upgrade would basically leave me with a load of work to do to get my crops going again. But in all honesty, the work, at least with my setup, is looking fairly minimal to get it going again. But yeah, anyway, I hope that you've all found this slightly useful. Those of you that are already playing on 2.8 and are, concerned about upgrading or just want to see what the upgrade behavior is like. And I will see you all in a bit. Have a good one, and I'll see you later.